are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. The same is true for leadership. Consistency of our action is a major aspect of leadership. It keeps us on track, provides confidence in our actions, and promotes trust from others. We each have our own leadership styles driven by our experiences and personal values. The key is to examine ourselves ever so often to ensure we maintain the consistency required for good leadership. As Lieutenant Governor Education and Training for District 39, John Davis participated in a leadership presentation at the district conference. It led him to review some of his leadership philosophies and values, some of which he will share with us tonight. Here is John Davis with Leadership Issues.
Thank you, Carmen. Fellow Toastmasters, have you ever asked yourself, am I a good leader? Have you ever wondered what it takes to be a good leader? At the conference this past week, 2 weekends ago, I had the opportunity to speak in a seminar with the rest of the trio, and we talked about our individual leadership styles. This gave me the opportunity to actually stop and think about what I believe in as a leader. We do this all the time without thinking. We are who we are. We have habits, we have customs, we have traditions, and we respond to any situation based on our past experiences and knowledge. It's important that every once in a while we stop and think about what those experiences and values really are to make us consistent, to make us the type of leaders we want to be. Now, when I examined my philosophies and my values, I came up with 15 different philosophies. I have a lot of mantras in my life. I'm old enough that I say, oh, well, that means this and this. Most situations, I have a mantra I go by. For tonight, I want to talk about 3 that I think are usually the ones upmost in my thinking when I make leadership decisions and I attack situations. Number 1, and you probably won't believe this, but number 1 that pops up the most is, I like rules. I really do. Rules make issues and situations and circumstances fair for everybody. That's why we have rules. They make aspects of leadership, aspects of life fair. I believe in fairness. I get very upset when there is unfairness. And I get very frustrated when there is little I can do about it. The second thing that rules do is that they cause consistency. Because the rules are there, if everyone's doing the same thing, we know what the outcome should be. How many people here have thought to themselves, man, I sure wish I knew what I was doing? Rules create consistency because we have that set of guidelines that tell us, in this situation, this is how we're going to act. Rules maintain proficiency. We establish rules because this is the best way. We've done this before. We've had these experiences. We've had this issue come up. And after examining what happened, 20/20 hindsight, which is the best way to look at anything, we established these rules so that we know this is probably the best way to do it. It's the most efficient, the most proficient way of handling this situation. Rules are tested over time. We use rules, we use guidelines, and if something goes awry, that's okay. We just rewrite the rule. But every time we use that rule, it comes out right, it's being tested. Eventually, if there's something wrong with the rule, an anomaly will show up, and it will cause us to modify that rule. So these are all the things that rules do for us. So one mantra that I don't think I've ever told this group, not many people, is that if you read the book, you'll be much better off. It's in the book. I don't care what the situation is. If it's not in the book, it's so far out there that it probably doesn't matter what you do. Read the book. So long as the rule can be applied appropriately, if you're not hurting anyone, that's the easiest way to go. Resolves conflict. There is no conflict. We're going with the same book. It makes it simple. We don't have to rethink and reinvent the wheel. There it is. And finally, my 2 conclusions about rules is, besides reading the book, there's no such thing as an unwritten rule. The rule is either written or it's not a rule. There is no unwritten rule. People use unwritten rules a lot, and you have to be very, very careful of using unwritten rules because they're usually written in someone's head for their own purposes. They're not thinking of the group. They're thinking of how they can create a rule that benefits them. And it may be okay. The chances are it's going to benefit them and them only, and everyone else may suffer. Now, my second philosophy, and Craig Valentine even hit on this in his keynote speech, so those of you who were there. He talked about a reality check. A lot of people believe that being a Pollyanna, that, oh, everything's beautiful, everything's nice, let's not talk about negative, is the way to go. In my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's not the way you want it perfectly. A reality check says, this is where we are. I'm not concerned about how necessarily it got there unless it affects our decision moving forward. I don't care who did it. This is what we've got. Let's look at what we've got and move forward from there. So take that reality check. Thinking everything is positive will never allow you to improve. If you say you're perfect all the time, you don't change anything. So it defeats improvement. And finally, the third philosophy that is one of my major philosophies, we are social beings. We are social animals. As social beings, we work together. That's what social means. We live together. We consider one another. And in my opinion, the most often way to be a good leader is to be a servant leader, which means you think of the other guy first. You think about the group first. If you think about the group and you work for the group, then you benefit because you're part of the group. When you think about yourself first, that means that you are not considering the rest of the group, and you may be arbitrarily hurting or degrading issues for which other people are concerned. So let's review. Number 1, rules are good. Read the book. Number 2, when you look at issues, look at them objectively, use a reality check. And number 3, we're social animals, so work for the group. Evaluating your own values will help you be a better leader and may help you discover something about yourself. Fellow Toastmasters.